We were first in line as they opened the gates for our evening drive. What would I see next?
Welcome to Jurassic Park.
Velociraptors? We started our search for tigers by looking at the ground for tracks. And then we looked up in the air and saw a blue bee-eater. Bee-eaters are smaller birds that like to eat, well, bees. And as it took off, I also saw an eagle flying over us. We drove along and came across this mahout watching his elephant. Mahouts have a long history in India. And these elephants are used at times just as we would use horses in America. And as we watched this elephant getting clean, a spotted deer came close to the Jeep. These spotted deer are popular prey items for the tiger. It's interesting is how close up the spots really stand out. But once in the woods, the spots on a deer, just like the stripes on a tiger, really help it blend in. We left the elephant and his mahout and drove on and soon came across some monkeys. It was interesting to see the macaques and langurs so close to one another, as usually the more aggressive langurs will scare away these rhesus macaques. This troop of langurs were right by the road. Gray langurs are the most widespread species of langur in India. They are also large for langurs, as females can average around 20 pounds and males can reach up to 40 pounds. And like most monkeys, they have a great ability to leap, and they can jump 12 to 15 feet across. It is always interesting to watch the social structure of primates. Here we can see some grooming one another. As we left these langurs, we drove around a turn, and I was not prepared for what I would see next. Was that a bear? Why yes, it's a sloth bear. A rare sight on safari indeed, as it was well over a year since our guide had last seen one. This sloth bear was closing in on a peacock on the road as we approached it. It checked us out and then went back into the woods. I was lucky to have just enough time to turn my camera on. As we took off around the other side of this brush to see if it would come out, we heard an alarm call, and that could mean a tiger was near. And one was. And there she is, the same tigress we saw that morning, the female with the one eye. She was probably returning to her cubs. She was not trying to hide herself from the deer, but even though she was not hunting, you can't blame the deer for still being on high alert. We drove on to see if we could watch her across the road at the other side. I sat and I waited, and we could hear the alarm calls around us. She was near. To sit quietly and wait to film wild animals, it's my favorite thing to do in this world. And even though I don't get to do it full time, I realize how lucky I was to at least be able to do it here. She was out there somewhere. And as I waited, a gray langur behind me provided some entertainment. This one wasn't sticking around to see what would come out of those woods. And unfortunately, we couldn't either, as jeeps were coming up, and it was time to leave the park.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Safari India. For more information on the items featured in this video, read the video's description. As always, thanks for watching. Namaste.